Welcome to SmokeHouseStudios.net. The in-studio broadcast feed is now live.
Warning. This show is about the return of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. If you are easily offended by the truth, then you need to keep listening. His return is drawing near.
SmokeHouseStudios.net. The Front Porch Show. A unique blend of current events and what they might mean. Humbly seen through the eyes of God's Word, the Bible, in an old-school front porch discussion with occasional guests, your input, and a guiding hand through Christ. Broadcasting from atop the front porch, it's SmokeHouseStudios.net's The Front Porch Show. Now, carefully blending more smoke goodness in each and every soundbite, your host, Smokehouse.
Well, hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you may be across the globe, across the United States. Oh, Smokehouse with you here, SmokeHouseStudios.net. Front Porch Show, February the 16th, 2019. Good to be with you, friends. We had a pretty good show last week. We're going to kind of continue on in that same manner. But I'm pleased to say that we have Brother Chuck back in the studio with us this weekend.
Yeah, I'm glad to be back, man. I missed last week.
Where were you, bud?
I was at home watching my 5 blessings. So, my wife was in New York, so I had daddy duty.
Well, I saw all the photographs, man. Looks like she hit all the important sites and had a pretty good time.
Yeah, within that amount of time. She wanted to hit them all, but I was like, you just, apart from being God himself, you cannot visit that many places. And she kind of was in agreement. She's like, I'm not going to try to, I want to try to hit all the sites that I can, but he goes, really, I was telling her, just enjoy where you go. Like, kind of take it all in. And she was trying to get her bearings because she was saying in the subway, it's kind of hard. When you go down the subway, it kind of throws you off. And then you got all the buildings, so you don't really have like the landmarks, like the mountains out here. It's kind of hard to know which direction you are.
Yeah.
So she said it was a bit mentally, kind of frazzling, even though she had a good time. So.
Well, I'm glad she did.
Yeah.
I've been up there and seen all the sites that she saw.
Wow.
And
in your truck?
Well, yeah, but when we would lay over or something, we would go into town and kind of.
Oh, that's cool.
See some sights, but boy, well, Chuck, looks like we're getting a wall, man.
Yeah, it's about time.
Yeah, it is about time. Now, friends, tonight's program is titled "The Peace Deal and the Wall." Now, this wall is going to serve more purposes than just keeping out illegal immigrants and trying to control the drugs that are coming in.
Sex trafficking, too.
Sex trafficking, human trafficking.
Right.
And it's a spiritual thing, friends. This is a spiritual battle. We have demonic entities that have been turned loose on us that are coming to attack us in the latter days. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah. Especially you got our leaders. You look at a lot of these people that are opposed to the wall, whether it be a physical wall or even just any kind of protection, and they're really, whether it be the unborn children, or like the wall, like their eyes are all bugged out. I mean, just really, and it's not picking on them physically, but when you look at them, it looks like there's something in them. And especially with their lack of reason and just how they're totally off. Like, how can any person stand for what they stand for? Any logical thinking person, it's completely opposed to logic, their views on stuff. So,
yeah. And my question is, for them to be so adamant about not having a wall, it would lead me to believe they're getting some sort of kickback.
Yeah, some kind of benefit from it.
The old adage is the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right?
Well, not only that, but I mean, you got to remember too, regardless of whether they're getting something, which I tend to believe that they are, the fact that they're just not willing to be reasonable and build a wall to protect people lets me know they're really not concerned about people.
No.
At least maybe just they're only concerned about people's opinion of them, but not really actually protecting them.
Their agenda is what they're more
exactly
focused on.
Or the way it seems like they are, like their perception by people.
Well, I have gathered that, and I have seen the tactics that's being used, And Satan's one world order is going to rise regardless. Now, with the wall going up, we know it's not going to stop all of it, but it's definitely going to put a damper on the majority.
Yeah.
That's a given. But there has been some things that has surfaced, Chuck, that we want to kick the show off with, and it is about this peace treaty. We've told our listeners, kept them abreast of the latest details that's coming out about the peace treaty.
Mm-hmm.
And this week from unsealed.org, a very credible biblical prophetic web site that keeps people informed, we don't know what is in the deal, this peace deal between the Palestinians and Israel. We know that Amir has said that, oh, no, this don't have anything to do with the division of land. That is just speculation. Now, he's in the Knesset, so he would know more than we would. But
right.
Since the deal hasn't been officially rolled out yet, we don't know what's in it.
Well, and maybe initially that wasn't in there. Maybe it's been added after he made that statement, too. Maybe it's been changed.
Good point. And so,
if it is in the division, because we don't even know yet, we're just kind of going off of what these articles are suggesting. So,
well, and we know at some point there will be a division because it's been written that there will be. Whether or not what we are about to witness is going to be that division, we don't know.
Right.
But interestingly enough, they put out an article this week talking about the ultimate deal is ready. Now, according to multiple media sources, the Trump-Kushner Middle East peace plan has been finalized and is ready to be unveiled. Now, probably shortly after Israel's elections. Let me stop right there.
All right.
Their elections this year, Chuck, was to be set for November.
Yeah.
But their deep state is going after Netanyahu in Israel, just like our deep state is going after Trump.
Right.
Fabricating lies, accusing him of taking bribes. I know, I think it was either Netanyahu or his wife.
Yeah, I remember that.
Received a bottle.
I think it was the wife.
Was it? She received a bottle of champagne.
Right.
And that's going to get him evicted, right?
Right.
He's colluding. And so in the efforts to oust Netanyahu this year, instead of having the elections in November in Israel, they have moved the elections up to April, just a few months away.
Yeah.
They have sped the elections up. So interesting now, we have this peace deal ready, and let me go into what Unsealed kind of laid out. Run it up your flagpole, see if you salute. But the details are scarce, but it's widely expected that the plan will divide Jerusalem and the Holy Land by establishing the nation of Palestine within the biblical defined territory of Israel. If this ultimate deal of the century is agreed to, it will undoubtedly trigger the final series of events leading up to Daniel's 70th week.
Right.
Let's let Max in Daniel chapter 9 just share with us the last few verses of this vision that Daniel got of the 70th week.
All right.
Salvations have been decreed. 77s are decreed for your people and your holy city to finish transgression, to put an end to sin, to atone for wickedness, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal up vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy place. Know and understand this. From the time the word goes out to restore and rebuild Jerusalem until the Anointed One, the ruler, comes, there will be 7 sevens and 62 sevens. It will be rebuilt with streets and a trench, but in times of trouble. After the 62 sevens, the Anointed One will be put to death and will have nothing. The people of the ruler who will come will destroy the city and the sanctuary. The end will come like a flood. War will continue until the end, and desolations have been decreed. He will confirm a covenant with many for 1 7. In the middle of the 7, he will put an end to sacrifice and offering. And at the temple he will set up an abomination that causes desolation until the end that is decreed is poured out on him.
Okay, so as we hear, this is the 7-year tribulation vision that Daniel was given.
Right.
Notice all the 7s that are within this. So we have this peace deal on the table, ready to go. They have moved Israel's elections from November of this year up to April, a few months from now.
Right.
Israel's 70th year was May 14th of last year. May 14th of this year will be Israel's 70th first anniversary. So with this peace deal ready, them moving the Israeli elections up to April from November will put the elections still within the 70th year of Israel. And if this peace deal is rolled out just in a few months, right before this election, then the peace deal is going to be rolled out still within Israel's 70th year. You follow what I'm saying?
Pretty compelling.
So, in Jerusalem, they are saying that the Trump administration's Middle East peace plan is finished, and Trump has been briefed on its contents. There's 2 senior administration officials have just told Fox News this week. The final draft of the administration's deal of the century is 175 to 200 pages long, and fewer than 5 people have access to complete document, sources told Fox News. So the plan is done. We know that for a fact. The president is happy with the parameters of this deal. And this is what the sources are telling Fox News and other news agencies. Now, in keeping with Daniel's 70th week and all the 7s that were involved, look at what Unsealed has laid out. It's likely to look increasingly like that this peace plan will be revealed to the world while Israel is still 70 years old.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Before the nation's 71st birthday. So go figure.
Doesn't it also talk about Trump and the 7s and him too?
That's where we're going here.
All right.
Yeah. So the deal that may trigger the 70th week, unveiled while Israel is 70 years old by a modern-day Cyrus who was born 700 days before Israel's reestablishment during a blood moon, was 777 days old when Israel was 77 days old. Was 70 years, 7 months, and 7 days old upon inauguration, and celebrated the 2-year anniversary of his inauguration in Israel's 70th year during another blood moon.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So
it's very compelling it's a very compelling case that, that we could actually be right where it's suggesting that we are.
Exactly. Now, all of that being said, Chuck, this week, now we know that we're trying to pull out of Syria. The deep state is not wanting us to leave Syria, but we're wanting to pull out of Syria. There's conflict right now in Syria. And as we begin to pull out, it's basically left on Israel's shoulders to defend themselves.
Right.
And they are. They're going into Damascus, continually turning it into a ruinous heap. They're bombing the Iranian military facilities.
Yeah.
And this was Iran's threat to Israel. Now, we have heard this over and over, nothing new. But listen this week to what Iran has stated in regards to Israel, keeping in mind in a few months we're coming up on Israel's election with this peace deal about to roll out.
Yeah.
Check this out.
Reuters reports a senior Revolutionary Guards commander said on Monday that Iran would demolish cities in Israel to the ground if the United States attacked the Islamic Republic. Yadallah Javani, the Guard's deputy head for political affairs, was quoted as saying, "The United States does not have the courage to shoot a single bullet at us, despite all its defensive and military assets. But if they attack us, we will raze Tel Aviv and Haifa to the ground." He was speaking at a rally celebrating the 40th anniversary of the Islamic Revolution.
So we have our sights set on Iran.
Right.
So does Israel.
Mm-hmm.
So Iran is not happy with us over pulling out of that peace deal that Obama gave them.
Right.
So they're itching to do anything they can to either attack us or our ally Israel, and Israel knows this.
Right.
Last week, when you were not here, I discussed how Israel is beefing up their naval forces out on the Mediterranean.
Mm-hmm.
They are preparing for war from Hezbollah and Al-Qaeda and all of the Iranian-backed and Iranian-funded terrorists.
Right.
They're running maneuvers now, serious war maneuvers in Israel.
Yeah.
Iran comes out and gives them this threat. Saying all of this, could this peace deal, could there be some meat on the bone is what I'm asking.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we're going to take a step back. We're going to go into Enoch chapter 90 again. We cover this from time to time. Jude has warned us to contend for the faith,
right?
The true faith of Jesus Christ, because there would be these slick-haired men that slip in unaware and and mislead people and bring them, lead them astray. But he goes on to say, Jude does in verse 6, "And the angels who did not keep their position of authority, but abandoned their own home, these have kept in darkness, bound with everlasting chains for judgment on the great day. In a similar way, Sodom and Gomorrah and the surrounding towns they gave themselves up to sexual immorality and perversion, and they serve as an example of those who suffer the punishment of eternal flame. They pollute their own bodies, they reject authority, and they slander celestial beings." So are we seeing this in our society today?
Yeah, you could say that.
Are we being given up to our sexual immorality?
Well, drug epidemic that's going on, and also just you think about the poison in our foods and in our water, and
well,
pretty crazy stuff. I mean, just from that perspective, and you said the sexual immorality. I mean, it's just crazy how bad it is.
Well, what about the polluting of their own body?
Right.
With all this transgenderism and
right. Yeah, because pollution comes in many different forms.
Right. And they reject authority.
Right. You could say that.
I mean,
that's exactly what's going on right now.
It has turned from a blatant disrespect to authority to a blatantly rejection of.
Well, I watched a video. I don't know if it was Crowder or who it was, Louder with Crowder. I was watching a couple of different videos. I can't remember if it was him or another one. But they were getting in a conversation with some of these SJWs or just some of the college kids, and they're saying basically they don't believe in any kind of, you have facts. They really don't believe that facts are hardcore evidence of something. They believe it's more you follow your feelings, and they reject the authority of the facts.
Right.
They just don't believe them.
Right.
So, I mean, you can bring them facts, but they're like, we don't believe in facts. Like, what?
Well, and how about this? The very same people will tell you that they don't believe in the Bible because the Bible was written by man.
Right.
But yet they'll flip on CNN and believe everything CNN's telling them.
Yeah. If you think about it, we got the scripture too that talks about the great falling away. Mm-hmm. You could actually make a pretty good case that the political arena and the news are like basically the new religion now. Like like you said, they'll believe what the news says. They'll believe what politicians, what their morale is or lack thereof is what they should be doing. Like it's not a biblical thing. It's a political thing. Like it's the politics have hijacked the morality of the Bible. So now they're the authority. God's not the authority.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point. I didn't really look at it that way, but you're right.
But they talk about it's a, what they say, it's like a, I'm trying to think of the word. it's more of a, like, you have the different parts to politics. You have like the rules, the regular, like the bills, but then you have like there's like conservative social issues. So it's a social issue now. It's not a spiritual issue. It's a social issue.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why society can determine what's right and wrong, not the Bible. It's what the society thinks.
Right. Good job, because the timing of this with what's happening with Israel right now, and what we're seeing happening with the wars, with this wall that has just now been chiseled in stone that we're building.
Right.
Enoch goes on in chapter 1. There's only one chapter, but verse 14, where he talks about Enoch. Enoch, the seventh from Adam, prophesied about these men. See, the Lord is coming with thousands upon thousands of his holy ones to judge everyone and to convict all of the ungodly of all the ungodly acts that they have done in the ungodly way, and all of the harsh words ungodly sinners have spoken against him. These men are they're grumblers, they're fault finders, they follow their own evil desires, they boast about themselves, and they flatter others for their own advantage. So, just in what we're seeing from people like Schumer, Pelosi, and I don't want to just classify the actual hate Trumper crowd. I'm just saying, are we seeing those in authority grumbling, fault finders, following their own evil desires? Are they boasting about themselves and flatter others for their own advantage?
Yeah. That would definitely be them.
You could not define this definition any clearer than what we are seeing.
Yeah,
today.
and when you see every one of those things, too, it's not just one or two of them. It's like all of them. I mean, look at the State of the Union address. Yeah. When he's up there saying things that are totally legitimate, concerns, and they're just sitting there. You see Chucky just kind of looking down, his face down. He's just kind of like, almost like this very satanic look on his face, like, so you're going to say all that stuff, huh? Kind of like having a disdain for what he's saying, not even listening to what he's saying, but just mad that he's saying it.
And then after it's over with, they're fault finders. They start
instantly, right?
Yeah. Well, Jude told us that Enoch prophesied to us when the coming Messiah was going to be and what he was going to bring when he got here.
Yeah.
So if we go into Enoch chapter 90 here, I want to cover a few things, Chuck, and I want to run some things up your flagpole, see if you salute. Now, you do
that quite often.
Yeah. You had an interesting insight before we went live when we were kind of discussing this, and I want you to share that here in just a moment. But here we have in Enoch chapter 90, we've covered it several times, but now that we have built the case that they have moved the election up to April in Israel, so that this election will take place before Israel's 70th first year. The peace deal is ready to go, could be rolled out within Israel's 70th year. Netanyahu, right now, is the prime minister. And I want to share something with you. When Enoch wrote this prophecy, he wrote it when Israel and Judea had separated, okay? And at the time, I think it may have been Zerubbabel who was king at the time when Enoch wrote this prophecy. And he said, and he's speaking of Israel here, of the last days of the coming of the Messiah, Enoch chapter 90, verse 1, and I saw till that in this manner 35 shepherds undertook the pasturing of the sheep, and they completed their periods as did the first, and others received them into their hand to pasture them for their period, each shepherd in his own period. 2, and after that I saw in my vision all the birds of heaven coming, the eagles, the vultures, the kites, the ravens, but the eagles led all the birds. Stop right there. So here's what Enoch saw. He saw 35 shepherds shepherding over Israel. And then there is this gap. Okay? But during this gap, there was all kind of other birds, and one bird in particular he mentioned was an eagle.
Right.
Let's keep that in mind. The eagles. The vultures, the kites, and the ravens, but the eagles led all the birds, and they began to devour those sheep, and to pick out their eyes and devour their flesh. And the sheep cried out because their flesh was being devoured by the birds. And as for me, I looked and lamented in my sheep over the shepherd who pastured the sheep. Okay. And I saw until those sheep were devoured by the dogs and the eagles and the kites, and they left neither flesh nor skin nor sinew remaining on all of them. Only their bones stood there, and their bones to fell to the earth, and the sheep became few. So here we have all of this devastation. Now, Enoch saw it in the forms of birds, but we have 35 kings, and then this disastrous attack happens to Israel, and they are basically gone.
Mm-hmm.
We have this gap.
Right.
So if we go back to the days that Enoch wrote this prophecy, Jeroboam, I believe, I'll have to double check that. But anyway, at the time this was written,
Mm-hmm.
there was exactly 35 kings of Israel,
Mm-hmm.
right up into Israel's diaspora.
Well, you know what I thought too is when you talked about the bones being left, that would be the foundation of it. So the foundation remains because Israel's back.
Well, there you
so
go.
their bones were like the part that remained.
Right.
Israel still remained even though they weren't there, and they were put back. So that's kind of interesting
It is.
that it specified there was something left, like not that the whole thing with the bones and everything was consumed. The bones were still there.
Yeah, something to build.
Interesting.
Yeah, something to build upon.
Yeah.
Strength.
Yeah.
Good point. But so if we go back in history, we look, there were 35 kings. There was a big destruction of Israel. Boom. We have the diaspora where Israel and the Jews were dispersed throughout all of the land.
Yeah.
So if we look at this, it's following word for word what Enoch had prophesied. But then Enoch said, and I saw until that 23 had undertaken the pasturing and completed in their several periods for a total of 58 times. So we have 35 kings. Israel's destroyed. We have this gap. And then when Israel returns back to a nation, Enoch said, I saw 23 more. And notice he said that had undertaken the pasturing and completed in their several periods. If we go back to 1948, when Israel was established, David Ben-Gurion's the one that signed the treaty, and he became the first prime minister. If you count the number of prime ministers' terms since 1948, this term that Netanyahu just won a few years ago made the 23rd term of this section of Israel.
Wow.
So we have 35 kings that Enoch prophesied would be, and then a destruction. We saw that very thing. Now Enoch is saying they've basically reformed. I saw 23 undertaking the pasturing of and they completed in their several periods for a total of 58. So if we add the 35 kings that he saw up to the diaspora, and then we start adding the kings once Israel has reformed, Netanyahu's term right now is the 23rd term, adding to the 35 before the diaspora, we have a total of 58 kings now.
Wow.
Now, many people will argue with this, Chuck, and they'll say, well, now, wait a minute. He's talking about shepherds pasturing the flock of Israel. And if that's kings, kings reigned an entire lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
Prime ministers do not. Prime ministers have term limits.
How long? Do you know how long the term limits are?
I think it's like 4 years.
Okay.
So, is this what Enoch is talking about? Well, if you go back into the ancient leadership, the ancient law of Rome back in those days, they had kings and they also had terms. Okay?
Right.
So it would be okay
to come to that conclusion, right?
To come to that conclusion that, yes, the first half of Israel were the kings, and then the second half he's talking about here would be terms.
Wow.
Okay? Now, here's the interesting part. So y'all get the idea here. If, and I'm saying if, what Enoch is speaking about and what Jude here is making reference to when we go back and look at Enoch is we're in the 23rd shepherd of Israel right now since they have been reestablished in 1948. 70 years now.
Wow.
From their re-inception.
Yeah.
The peace deal is ready to go right now. They have moved their elections up, so the election will take place in the 70-year mark of Israel. Now, if Enoch's prophecy is correct, okay, here we go. We're going to skip this. I don't want to leave people hanging. So if we are in Israel's, or if we're in Netanyahu's last term, then either can he be reelected? I didn't even look into that. I know this is his third time.
I don't know. Be something worth looking into
in a row. I don't know if he can be reelected. I don't know if I'll check into that. But anyway, what I'm saying is, if Enoch if we're seeing what Enoch is saying, this is going to be Netanyahu's last term. This is going to be the last term of a king of Israel, period.
Wow.
And for them wanting to move this election up into April is interesting to me.
Oh, yeah.
And this peace deal being rolled out.
Especially, it's not just like a couple months before. It's like within the 70th. It would just keep it just within the 70th.
Within a month of the 70th.
That's just kind of interesting because I mean, I don't know how, if that's happened before.
Right.
Maybe it has, maybe it hasn't. But it's just interesting that at this particular time that it's rolled back to make sure it's within the 70th. It's like, wow.
But listen to what Enoch went on to say when we go to verse 6. And Chuck, you brought up some interesting points. Now, here we know that Enoch is talking about Israel here. So let's keep the focus on Israel, okay? But I also want you to keep the focus on everything else that we're seeing happening around the world, and especially in our nation.
Yeah.
Verse 6, but behold, lambs were born by those white sheep, and they began to open their eyes and to see and to cry to the sheep. Yea, they cried to them, but they did not hearken to what they said to them, but were exceedingly deaf, and their eyes were very exceedingly blinded. So we're seeing the Jewish people in Israel now waking up to what's going on, waking up to these threats.
Yeah.
And there are those who are crying out about this, but it's almost like nobody's paying attention.
Right.
And
I was saying it's interesting because you have the whole abortion issue and how we were kind of talking about, I think before, about the whole dragon coming in to consume the child. And then you see it being fleshed out, in a physical way with, the dragon, the devil trying to consume babies. And then you actually see Trump coming out against that, calling on the states to pass, or Congress to pass a law to protect babies. So you see somebody taking a bold stand for
opening the eyes of those
right, exactly,
who are blinded to really what's going on.
Right.
All right. It's interesting you said that, because listen to the next verse. Verse 8 said, and I saw the vision how the ravens flew upon those lambs and took one of the lambs and dashed the sheep into pieces and devoured them. Now, we know that he's talking about Israel here. But let's back up a little bit, broaden our view, what you had just stated about abortion. Right. And I saw the vision of how the ravens flew upon the lamb and took one of those lambs and dashed the sheep into pieces and devoured them.
And that article that talks about the doctor holding the baby up and shaking him really bad. And I'm just like, wow, that just gave me goosebumps. I'm like, you see that fleshed out. And especially them dismembering the body of the baby inside of the mom, jerking pieces out. When you see what actually happens with abortion, it's like, wow.
And think about
that's incredible.
Think about the timing that Enoch is talking about this as to the timing of this actual grotesque. I mean, this type of abortion has been
barbaric
going on,
Yeah.
but never has it been in the limelight, in the mainstream now, like it is now.
Right.
On everybody's table when they
Yeah.
turn on the news.
Yep.
We're seeing the lambs being dashed into pieces here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, figuratively in America.
Yeah.
Now, I don't want to take the focus off of Israel. I'm not trying to skew Enoch into something it's not really saying, but I want you to look at the similarities, because what's happening in the spiritual will manifest in the physical, right?
Yeah.
So what is spiritually happening to Israel, we are reaping it in the physical sense here in America.
Yeah.
Now,
Crazy, huh?
hold that thought, Chuck. And I saw till horns grew upon those lambs, and the ravens cast down their horns. Okay. Figuratively here, in the physical sense, we have Israel gaining ground. We have Israel now building walls.
Yeah.
We have Israel going into Syria, and they're still, the United Nations, the ravens, are still trying to cut Israel down. It does not
Right.
matter how many missiles that Palestine fires into Israel. You'll never hear a word. But the first time Israel fires the first missile in defense, they are creating a humanitarian crisis. Israel
Right.
is. So you see what I'm saying here?
Yeah.
Now let's look at the physical aspect here in America. Trump, again, let's read this again. And I saw till horns grew up on those lambs, and the ravens cast down their horns. All right? Trump has stood up now for the unborn, like you had stated.
Yeah.
And look what's coming after
Right.
Trump now for
Yeah.
that reason. Look what's coming after the Christian theology now
Right.
because of that
All the
reason.
states. Yeah.
And look at what these other states are doing now. 29 states now are mid full-term abortions.
Yeah.
And look at the latest coming out with the Virginia governor.
Yeah.
It's
You
just
kill
like-
a baby after it's born.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll just kill it after. We'll jerk its arms off and its legs off, and we'll hook it to a machine, and we'll keep his organs alive so we can sell the organs, you know?
Yeah.
Just
It's unbelievable.
so we're kind of seeing parallels here, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
With what
Yeah, I
Enoch
think
is
you
saying.
could definitely draw parallels from that.
Yeah, and then he goes on to say, and I saw until there sprouted a great horn, one of those sheep, and their eyes were opened.
Yeah.
Okay. In keeping with Israel, Iran has now threatened Israel. Israel's right now, the big horn has risen. They're awake. Israel is definitely preparing for war here.
Yeah.
In Israel's aspect, we're seeing that happen. Now let's look at the spiritually of Israel. We're seeing.
Yeah.
Let's look at the physical aspect of it here in our nation. Okay, the one that sprouted a great horn was one of those sheep. What's Trump? He's not a politician.
Right.
He's not of the cabal. He's not of the global elite.
Right.
He's one of the sheep.
Yeah.
He's one of the sheep, man.
I know.
And here this great horn has stood up now against these ravens,
Yeah.
and he has opened the very eyes of America now.
Yeah. Incredible.
All right, verse 10. And it looked at them, and their eyes opened, and it cried to the sheep, and the rams saw it and ran to it. So here we have Trump in his State of the Union address, opening the eyes of the people, and he's crying to the sheep. He's crying to Congress, man.
Yeah.
Let's do something here.
Right. Yeah. Look at the rallies when people just tens of thousands of people show up. Thousands of people show up.
Yeah. And it's still even like this when he called the national emergency on the wall.
Yeah.
And Jim Acosta had to stand up and be like, you're manufacturing a crisis. And Trump's like, so like, won't you ask the angel moms if I'm manufacturing a crisis? Have you even interviewed them?
Yeah. It's pretty sad because I watched that video, and it's just it's so incredibly sad that, like you said, well, go to the prisons and see how many illegal aliens are there. Have you looked? Are you willing to look? See, here's the thing: is you hear Jim Acosta and you think, oh wow, he just honestly just is not seeing what's going on. It's like, well, I follow the facts, the statistics, and Trump's like, well, I'm looking at this stuff. I'm looking at the prisons, how many illegals are there. This is it. So, I mean, you can almost, in some ways, kind of throw the statistics to the wind, because we know from statistics and from the information the news sources gather that they're way off base. Whatever statistics they're getting from the places they're getting from are completely off base. So really, Trump said, well, you can almost kind of look at the statistics up against the facts. Mm-hmm. And then you kind of have to do that now. You can't really depend on these things because it's so skewed because of the whole political, the whole atmosphere of that, with them being, this is our truth. Well, that's the truth, or that's your truth. Like, you can't really look at statistics because there's so much going on where people are just wanting to believe what they want to believe. Mm-hmm. You have to kind of just open your eyes and look at what, kind of make your own decision. I really feel like in a lot of ways, statistics are just so inaccurate. You really have to be willing, almost like the Lord talks about, you really want to know the truth, you'll search it out. Mm-hmm. And see, like Jim Acosta and these other people, they really don't want to search it out. Well, no, they just want to look at the statistics and say, this is what it is. And we're like almost kind of mindlessly going with that. And Trump says, well, talk to the angel mom, look in the prisons. Like, if you really want to know, exactly, if you really want to know what's wrong, look, you can open your eyes and look and see that the statistics are obviously not accurate.
Well, and keep this in mind. He is one of the vultures. He is one of the ravens that are coming down, because it closes this section by saying, and now withstanding at those eagles and vultures and ravens and kikes kept tearing the sheep and swooping down upon them and devouring them till the sheep remained silent. But the rams lamented and cried out. And those ravens fought and battled with it and sought to lay low its horn, but they had no power over it.
Wow.
Okay, so in keeping with Israel here, this is the enemies of Israel who are going to be coming after the apple of God's eye.
Right.
And whatever weapon mode, they're going to be dashing Israel to pieces. But in the last battle, God's going to intervene, and he's going to fight for Israel. He's going to defeat all of Israel's enemies. Spiritual sense.
Right.
But in the physical sense, if we look at what's going on here in America at the same time, because all of this is going to take place at the 23rd king.
Right.
And like I said, if Netanyahu is this 23rd king, it appears to be beginning now. So the eagles and the vultures and the ravens, they just kept tearing at the sheep and swooping down upon them and devouring them, and the sheep remained silent.
Yeah.
What is happening in America today? We're being censored.
Yeah.
Our Second Amendment rights are now on the table with a little statement Pelosi made this week.
Right.
Our Fourth Amendment is gone.
They're trying to rip out our horns, basically.
They're trying to rip out our horns.
The horn is the protection. That's the tool that protects you.
And what is happening? What are the sheep doing?
Yeah.
Crickets. You don't hear anything.
Right.
The sheep are just quiet.
Except the rams are the ones that have their eyes open.
The rams are the remnant here. Yes, exactly. They're the ones that are open. They're the ones that are crying out.
Right.
Still us, Life Story Church. The rest of these churches here on the very same corner are deader than a hammer.
Yeah.
They're the sheep here.
Incredible parallels.
There is incredible parallels. And those ravens fought and battled with it and sought to lay low its horn, but they had no power over it.
Yeah.
They have no power over the remnant.
Right.
They have no power over Israel. Because God is protecting Israel, and the remnant in this country are going to go down swinging for the name of God.
That's right.
Because our eyes are open. So,
well, we're concerned with the truth and protecting people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, most gun owners have that same heart and attitude, that they recognize that guns physically are for our protection, and they're going to use them if they have to. Hopefully we don't, but you and I know eventually that's going to happen.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
We pray for discernment and direction, but they're not going to stop attacking.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody's been paying attention, from the time our country's been existing,
mm-hmm.
people have been trying to take the guns, even from way back then. Even other countries were trying to take our guns.
Yeah,
exactly. So,
nothing new on the
exactly.
sun,
And that's why people go, oh, well, you're a conspiracy theorist, you're crazy, the government's not doing that. But people who don't pay attention are the only ones that can say stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because we know that the heart of man is desperately wicked beyond all things. Who can know it? So especially people who don't know God, their hearts are going to just continually be wicked and evil, and they're going to continually try to be God,
mm-hmm.
take away our rights, our freedoms. They want to rule, and if they're ruling, they're going to be selfish. So is it really that hard to imagine that's what's happening when most of the leaders in our country, a lot of them, are godless? So is it really that hard to believe that that's what they're trying to do?
Right, because
they want to control. If you take guns away, if you take rights away, you can control people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they want, because the devil's behind them. And that's what the devil wants, and he's going to use them to accomplish that purpose.
There's nothing new under the sun. Mao
exactly.
took the guns,
That's why it's like
Stalin took the guns.
Is it really a conspiracy? Is it really that hard to understand? That's the direction we're going when you look at how. But see, you have to abandon reality and history to believe what they're believing, because they don't want the truth. That's why it's like so. It's like, it's still frustrating, but really you kind of go, wow. This actually makes a lot of sense, that why they're doing this, and I can see how this is what's going on, because we're paying attention to the truth. So the Lord says, if you pay attention to the truth, I'm going to show you the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Because we want to know God, so we will know truth, because He is truth. So He's going to reveal Himself to us, but we're going to understand all truth, because the Bible talks about He's going to lead us into all truth. So whether it's biblical truth, or whether it's this is the history and this is what truly happened, because people don't want to know the truth anymore. Like these news agencies and just the politicians, they have their mind constructed of what they want to believe. And it's a total delusion.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why, because they don't want to know the one who is the truth, so they will not understand any truth. So it's really not that hard to figure out.
They're blinded, and the sheep that follow them are not speaking out. Only the rams are today. Yep. So in conclusion of this what's happening here in the next couple of months with Israel, it's interesting to watch.
It is very interesting.
Now, we just laying it out. So let's keep our eyes on Israel. Let's keep our eyes on this peace deal that could go into motion before Israel's 71st year.
It's exciting.
They've moved the elections up to April. Let's wait and see how this plays out. Now, this leads into last week, Chuck, I don't know if you heard about this, but a cross washed up on a beach in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, it sure did. God was showing Himself to be alive. And here we go again. We hear about these all the time, but in Bon Secour, Alabama, an Alabama man said that a Bible that his grandfather gave him survived a devastating house fire, bringing firefighters to tears. This week.
Wow.
Scott Bird, I don't know if he's your cousin or not.
It could be.
Of Bon Secour. He lived in the home for more than 20 years. The veteran said that he lost everything in the fire, but his Bible was still intact. And there's a picture of it right there. And there's a picture of his house. The fireman actually came out of the home with tears in his eyes and said, "You're not going to believe this. You got to come see it for yourself," Bird said. The Bible did not have a scorch mark on it. And Bird believes it's a sign from God that the hardships following his families will be resolved. One of his daughters, Shelby, was diagnosed with a rare form of leukemia in 2004. She has since beat the disease. And since the fire, this happened January the 8th. The article just came out this week. Several community organizations and businesses have donated clothes, school supplies, and bedding for the Birds. So here we have God now Interesting that this article surfaced this week. God is wanting us to know that He is alive, that He is still on the throne, and that He is taking care of these things.
That's right.
So that's the latest coming out. Now we can go to break. Chuck, when we come back, we're going to be talking about Pelosi, Trump, El Chapo, Ocasio-Cortez.
Oh, yeah.
Ushering in socialism into this country up in New York. We're going to talk about Andrew McCabe, him coming out writing a book like Comey and trying to get ahead of the news that's coming out. And I don't know, man. It just
gets crazier and crazier.
You can't make this stuff up. A special hello to Sister Elizabeth tonight down in North Carolina. She works on the weekends a lot and never gets to listen to us live. Tonight she's tuning in. We love you, Sister Elizabeth.
Very cool.
Thank you for tuning in.
That's right.
Yeah. All right, friends. Peace treaty is on the table, and we know what that means.
Don't go away.
Because we'll be right back
after this.
Smokehouse. To talk to Smokehouse, dial 641-552-9354. That number once again, 641-552-9354. And enter access code 252380, followed by the pound sign. Call in and join the show.
SmokehouseStudios.net. God is among us. The door to the ark is slamming shut.
1 Thessalonians 5:3. For when they shall say, Peace and security, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape.
The borders of 1967, that will live in
peace and security.
The lesson of history is that peace and security do not come easily.
Peace and stability that people on all sides long for.
2 states for 2 peoples living side by side in peace and security is not a vague slogan, but a real necessity for the stability in the entire region.
Israel and Palestinians, they can live side by side in peace and security. This is our vision, and this is our commitment.
Of a new deal, peace and security and friendship.
My hopes and dreams for Israel are to live in peace and security.
2 states living side by side in peace and security. True security for all Israelis. We will also pursue peace between Israel and Lebanon.
In peace and security.
Israel and Syria.
Peace and security.
And a broader peace between Israel and its many neighbors. Must decide whether we are serious about peace and security. To recognize Israel's legitimacy and its right to exist in peace and security. That's how we will find new pathways to peace and security. That is the work that we must do.
In peace and security.
Peace and security and coexistence.
A movement towards peace. If we have this triangle, economy, security, and peace, then peace can succeed.
Our government is talking now about peace and security. Peace and security with Israel. Wake up, people.
If this is the 7-year treaty, sudden destruction will come, and we can look around us with the threats of war from Russia, China. Everything's building up, man. If you're in the spirit,
you pay attention to prophecy, you can see, wow.
Yeah, I mean,
exactly like what it says: peace and security, and peace and safety. It's like, wow. Can it get any clearer? It's like, wow.
Oh yeah, man. And Trump had made a statement in his State of the Union speech that America will never be a socialist country.
Yeah.
All right. I just want to back out, friends. I know what Q's saying, and I know what all the others are saying, but we got to take a look at what's actually going on here.
Right.
Socialism is on the rise, and socialism is working in this nation. From the sanctuary cities, from the governors that are defying the laws of the president, Beto and all of them, saying they're going to remove the wall, We've got California stating we're not going to follow anything the president says.
Right.
Ocasio-Cortez runs Amazon out of New York, and I guess Cuomo is just like fuming at the mouth.
Right.
What do you expect, Cuomo? Do you really think God is going to bless your state with you ripping children apart in the womb?
That's right.
I mean, if you think that is bad, wait till what God has in store for you next. Virginia, the same way.
Yeah.
Socialism is rising.
Yeah.
And it's taking hold. Again, they're censoring us. They are okay, so Nancy Pelosi made the statement.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just start here, okay? In her rant, here we go.
I ever say I was filing a legal challenge? You said Democrats. I may. That's an option, and we'll review our options. But it's important to note that when the president declares this emergency, first of all, it's not an emergency. What's happening at the border? It's a humanitarian challenge to us. The president has tried to sell a bill of goods to American people. But putting that aside, just in terms of the president making an end run around Congress, here he said, let us respect what the committee will do, and then he walks away from it. The president is doing an end run about Congress, about the power of the purse. You've heard me say over and over again, Article 1, the legislative branch, the power of the purse, the power to declare war, many other powers listed in the Constitution, and, of course, the response.
Okay, we get the idea. He's not manufacturing anything. There is a crisis on the border.
Yeah.
But see, either they're getting kickbacks from what's coming across the border. We know that the sacrifice of children is how the beast is being fed.
Right.
Jeremiah told us that in the Valley of Gehenna.
Yeah.
Back in the Old Testament. So there's nothing new under the sun. Sherry made a valid point here. We have been a socialist country since World War II. What's rising is communism, and that's a good point. Because I'll just use helmets on motorcycles and seatbelts.
Right.
I mean, in a free society, if you want to go through a windshield when you have a wreck, you have that right.
Yeah, and if you are not willing to take certain precautions, then you have to be okay with the consequences. Exactly. You're going to deal with the consequences, I should say.
Exactly. You have freedom of choice to do what you want, and then you will have to deal with the consequences.
It's not the government trying to, be the brain for you. Like, you have to use your own brain and do what you feel like is safe.
Right. So the demons here in Congress, their food supply for Moloch is being hampered here.
Yeah.
And so now they're going to take legal action. Trump even said it when he declared the national emergency.
He was already expecting it.
Yeah. They're going to sue me. We're going to take it to the Ninth Circus. Oh, excuse me. I mean the Ninth Circuit.
I think you said it right.
Yeah. And it'll be appealed and gone to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court will say, hey, you've got every right to do it. A state has a right to build a wall if they want to.
Right.
A county has a right to build a wall.
Think about it, too, the areas that are controlled by the farmers, their land, they could say, sure, come on in and build it.
Well, it's
my property. And a lot of them said that they would give their land for a barrier to be built. Like, we'll go ahead and do that.
Well, in this nation, it is law that if you have farmland that backs up to an interstate or something, you have to build a fence,
right,
to keep your livestock
from
going out.
Exactly,
it's law
for obvious reasons.
It's Chuck. It's law that you have. If you went and you bought a piece of land over here by I-40, first thing you'd have to do by law is put up a fence so livestock wouldn't come out into the road.
Well, I had an issue like that with chickens taking off, so I can understand if my chickens weighed a couple 100 pounds and decided to walk out on the road in front of people, obviously there'd be problems. So you would need a fence. So
and like Sister Sherry reminded us, Nancy Pelosi got 6 homes with fences and walls around them and a moat.
Right.
So
if these people really, really believed what they're saying, it would be fleshed out in their lives. That if they really believed in open borders and letting just anybody in, they would even believe in having a door on the front of their house. Like, if you want to go all the way, it's interesting because people that speak the loudest against stuff a lot of times are the people that have the least stuff going on in their lives that would support their views.
There you go.
So the proof is in the pudding.
Well, keeping up with, we'll call it communism because that's what it is.
Right.
Have you heard what they're doing in New Jersey now?
What's that?
They're taxing the rain in New Jersey. Hey, you cannot make this stuff up. Check this out.
Wow.
Fit for a rainy day. Some of your hard-earned dollars may be taken away as the weather turns ugly and raindrops fall on the Garden State. A new bill would allow for the creation of local or regional stormwater utilities, giving local counties and municipalities the power to collect a tax from properties with large paved surfaces, such as parking lots. That's businesses and homeowners. Senate President Steve Sweeney.
And like with all this salt that we've had on the roads recently, that's all running into the sewer systems. So you can't ignore problems because they don't go away.
The Senate President says most states already have stormwater utilities that collect and filter runoff from storms. In New Jersey, the runoff goes directly into streams, rivers, and bays, carrying with it pollution like lawn fertilizers that contaminate the waterways. Former governor and current state senator Richard Cody says it's necessary.
A lot of our economy is based on, obviously, the shore. We got to make sure we keep it that way.
These homeowners aren't a fan of the plan.
They're crazy as it is. There's too much taxes in New Jersey. Why would we want to, get more taxes, especially on cement?
They shouldn't go any higher. It's not fair.
Some Republicans have dubbed the bill the rain tax, saying another tax makes New Jersey even more unaffordable. And State Senator Tom Kean Jr. agrees.
We all want to protect our environment. We all want to preserve future generations. But this is a way to tax the citizens in New Jersey with no oversight.
What do you say to taxpayers who say, I can't afford to be taxed again?
It's a small cost to live safely.
Other supporters say creating these utilities would help reduce flooding caused by storms. In Elizabeth, New Jersey, Meg Baker, CBS.
So there you have it. They're going to tax the rain, and Trump said that we're never going to be a socialist communist country.
Don't you love how whenever they propose something, they always leave it very wide and open and have no oversight?
Well, we have taxation without representation.
Right.
That's exactly what we have.
Right.
And, man,
I feel really bad for the people that live in these places that are controlled by these nutcases. It's like, man, you realize how important it is to, when you have your local elections, to put people that actually utilize even a portion of their brain to make decisions, because that's kind of important to use your mind to make decisions.
Well, okay, and even though we know that it is a rigged election, where a lot of these officials, like the Muslim woman Omar and that other Talibi Lahababa from Minnesota that's in there that called Trump an MFer.
Right.
Ocasio-Cortez.
Yeah.
We know they were rigged elections, and that's how they got in there, but yet the majority of those states are liberal states.
Yeah.
So you get what you pay for.
He's right.
And now when they're ushering in their socialist agenda, and I called Lamar Alexander and I called Marsha Blackburn this week. And I wanted to know what their vote was going to be on this new Green Deal.
Okay.
William Mount brought up an interesting point that I want to share.
All right.
In a minute about this Green Deal. But I called him. I said, I want to know what your vote's going to be.
Yeah, that's going to kind of affect your job, too, if they get rid of all the diesel fuel. I was listening to a guy say, I think it was on the War Room, either War Room or just one of InfoWars' regular show. And I think it was on the War Room. He said, does Ocasio-Cortez really think that getting rid of diesel fuel, which basically what they have to do, the military vehicles wouldn't be able to operate, the barges wouldn't be able to operate, to haul the big shipping containers, semi-trucks, my concrete truck, none of them would be able to operate. You wouldn't be able to, I don't think it was even trains, I think, run on some type of...
Well, they do, but they want the electric energy trains, right? From wind energy. But here's the thing, Chuck, you bring a valid point. Concrete trucks, right?
Yeah.
In the new Green Deal, Ocasio-Crazy-Cortez wants to get rid of fossil fuels and all
Right.
of that, but she says we have to rebuild every structure in America in order to have it maintain a green, energy-efficient deal.
Yeah.
How are you going to rebuild things if there's no concrete trucks running?
Well, see,
if there's no flatbed.
I think, I honestly agree that really, if our country could do the same thing kind of that we're doing, and there would be another way, because really, I really don't like diesel fuel and all these things, because, when our trucks leak oil and the fuel drips out and I can watch it go over to the runoff and then it goes down into the streams, I'm thinking, man, all this stuff is ending up in our streams and end up in our water supply, and we know how good or how lack of good, or lack the quality of them filtering out stuff before it goes back into our tap. So I'm really not a big fan of fossil fuels, but at the same time, I recognize you can't just uproot that stuff and just do something else just like that. Like something that's our whole infrastructure is built, with this stuff. It has to be something that takes a lot of time, thought, and you got to kind of work your way that direction. You can't just all of a sudden go, okay, we're going to do this and just stop all this stuff. You would completely destroy your economy. Like it has to be a gradual thing over time.
Mm-hmm.
So I would be in agreement if they could find some way to do something to get rid of fossil fuel or to somehow do it cleaner, more responsible, so stuff's not leaking into the environment. So, but I just don't agree with her, just like what she's saying, just cut it out. You can't do that. Not without dramatic consequences.
Right. and Sherry had mentioned we have clean energy from Nikola Tesla.
Right.
And Trump knows about it.
Good point.
So maybe that type of clean energy is coming, but you bring up a valid point. So everything that Ocasio-Cortez brings up in this Green Deal is to curb all of that, what you were talking about.
Right.
Right? But it's going to take away our manufacturing, our refineries, our businesses. It's going to take away farmland because of tractors and all that run on.
Exactly.
Okay.
They were saying that, like, if you had to convert it to electricity, a tractor would have to have like a 70-foot, like, photovoltaic, the whole solar panels,
right,
to equal the amount of energy produced by its motor with gas burning. And obviously you can't turn, if you're going through your farm and you got stuff, you'd be it would actually tilt over. You can't, obviously, just even when I've been looking at all that, that a 70-foot, photovoltaic wouldn't be sustainable putting it on top of your tractor.
Right.
So, it's like I said, it's a good thought, but not really a good implementation.
Well, Mitch McConnell is forcing a vote into the Senate. He's like, if y'all want this, we're going to force the vote. Chuck Schumer's going nuts. No, wait a minute. We can't, not right now.
Do you really want this?
Not right now. But Mitch McConnell, he's like, yeah, we're going to do it.
Yeah.
So I called Lamar Alexander and I called Marsha Blackburn. There are two senators here from Tennessee. And they're people, I was talking with them. I said, which way are they going to vote? He says, well, I can't tell you that because it's not been laid on the floor yet, and so we haven't really been told which way they're going to vote. So I started voicing my opinion about how ridiculous and all this is, with this Green Deal and blah, blah, blah. And he says, well, Mr. Martin, I can assure you just by what you're saying that your opinion equals theirs. So at least Lamar and Marsha Blackburn here but here's what I wanted to get to, and Dr. Mount brought this up this week, and it's very interesting. So if this, let's just say for the sake of argument, this Green Deal does pass.
Yeah.
And it's going to take away fuels, planes, tractors, then there would be no fuel, there would be nobody getting any jobs, there would be famine, there would be chaos and riots,
right?
People killing each other, massive amounts of death, right?
Yeah.
And not to mention that if you look deep into this Green Deal, they want to get rid of the farting cows out in the field because of their methane.
Well,
right?
they did that out in California, or they're in the process of still doing that. That in Corona, in California, I used to live out in that area, and they were talking about the whole methane because it really stinks down there.
Yeah,
really bad. Or it did at the time when I was out there. So yeah.
And so if you look in deeper into that, they're already aborting children you know that they are going to segue into euthanizing the elderly.
Right.
Okay, because they're useless. They're taking up space.
Right.
And
it costs a lot to keep them alive.
And
they're getting into our pocketbooks. And if we get rid of them, we've got all their retirement and all the, 401k, or we have all their money.
And they're old anyway. They're just laying in a nursing home waiting to die anyway.
Right.
That's coming.
Yeah.
And they're releasing methane. So, under this Green Deal, how it would segue into that type of depopulation. See, now those who aren't really making an effort in this world, we need to get rid of those too. That's what it would turn into.
Darwinian kind of thing.
Now, Dr. Mount brought up a very good point. If we read in Revelation 6, the four horsemen of the apocalypse, one's going to bring war, and there's one's going to bring a scale and balance and weigh everything. Okay, the last one, Revelation 6:8, and I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him. And power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth to kill with the sword, with hunger, and with death, and with the beast of the earth. Now, here's what I want to bring to light. When Dr. Mount talked about this, he went into the Greek translation of the pale horse. And the Greek translation of the pale horse, Chuck, the pale horse was green. It was a pale green horse in the Greek translation. So,
interesting.
If we look at this way, behold, a pale green horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him. So if this Green Deal, I'm just saying a what if here, if this Green Deal were to pass, right, look at the parallels, then we know that death will come from that because people starve to death. And those who are survivalists, they will be going out into the woods, eating the berries and whatever they can find to eat, taking food away from the animals, which would cause the animals to become hungry. Because with this pale horse is going to come the killing of the sword, with hunger and with death, and with the beast of the earth. So the beast of the earth are going to be attacking
Interesting.
the animals.
Yeah.
And so, you hear stories. I can remember my grandmother telling me stories about the Depression, how they had to go out and forage out into the woods and eat berries and plants and everything they could get their hands on.
If you think about it, like everything eats other stuff. So if the bugs that live out there have nothing to eat, then they're going to die off. Well, what's up from them? If the bugs die, then what's up from them starts starving, and then what's up from them starts starving, all the way up to the animals.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the whole chain of events, the whole circle of life kind of, is interrupted. So now they have to go after people because all the stuff that was underneath them that led up to them is gone.
Right, and they have to.
That's what I'm saying, right?
So, interesting little parallel here.
Right.
That the Greek translation of this pale horse is a pale green horse.
Right.
And if we may be looking beyond the scope of what this Green Deal would be ushering in, but then again...
But there's interesting parallels at the very least.
Yeah. So something just to consider. We're just throwing it out there. We're not saying the Green Deal is the pale horse. We're not. I'm just saying we need to take a look.
It's interesting how that could be like a physical fleshed or like a symbolic, fleshing out of that spiritual, what it's talking about in the Bible.
Exactly. An eye-opener.
Yeah.
We would not be a proper watchman if we didn't at least
look at all the details,
entertain this idea and say, hey, consider it. And what is involved with the Green Deal of tearing down these large corporate entities?
Yeah.
It's happening. Listen.
First checkout-free grocery store opened to the public in the U.S. last year, and it's been receiving positive response. Some experts say that...
And that's the wrong clip. I was going into the Amazon, what Cortez has done to New York with Amazon, right? So check out what her with this Green Deal and everything involved. Okay, listen to her just flip flop. Bible says a double-minded man is unstable in all the ways. Check us out.
Is it how do you envision financing this? Is it all through government? Is it just how are you envisioning financing it that it doesn't end up with the rank and file tax?
So there's a couple of things. One is that I think one way that the right does try to mischaracterize what we're doing as though it's like some kind of massive government takeover. Obviously, what we're trying to do is, well, obviously it's not that, because what we're trying to do is release the investments from the federal government to mobilize those resources across the country.
As you know, Congresswoman, one reason that people who are politically conservative are skeptical of efforts to combat climate change is that it sounds to them like it requires massive government intervention, which they just don't like. Are you prepared to put on the table that, yes, actually, they're right. What this requires is massive government intervention?
It does. Yeah, I have no problem saying that. Why? Because we have tried their approach for 40 years. For 40 years, we tried to let the private sector take care of it. They said, we got this. We can do this. The forces of the market are going to force us to innovate, except for the fact that there's a little thing in economics called externalities. And what that means is that a corporation can dump pollution in the river and they don't have to pay for it, and taxpayers have to pay for cleaning up our air, cleaning up our water, and saving the planet. And so we've already been paying the costs, except we have not been getting any of the benefit. And so what we're here to say is that government is not just for cleaning up other people's mess, but it's also for building solutions in places where the private sector will not.
So where does she stand?
Yeah.
Which side is she going to be on this? So you see where we're going with this.
Yeah.
Now, Chuck, it's interesting what you had said about the food chain.
Yeah.
I don't mean to flip-flop. Here I am talking about an unstable man, and we're flip-flopping
Well,
here.
we're flip-flopping ideas, not going back and forth on our position.
But, and by the way, sister, we need to check on Dave Hodges. He might be a little under the weather tonight because Sister Cheryl's listening tonight. So Dave Hodges must. I'm just kidding, Cheryl. We love you, girl. But you had mentioned the food chain. If the insects start dying off and then they don't have anything to eat, they're going to go to the next thing.
Right.
Okay. Listen to this report this week that has just come out, and it's interesting. Of course, we know God told us in Hosea chapter 4, because there's no truth, there's no justice, there's no knowledge of God in the land. There's lying, there's no lying, cheating, stealing, the whole 9 yards. He's going to take the beasts from the earth, birds of the air, and the fish from the sea. So he's going to take these things to show us, hey, you're at this point, you better straighten up.
That's right.
But also a parallel in keeping with what you had said about the food chain and the food supply dwindling. Check out this.
They're beautiful, sometimes bothersome, but without insects, scientists say life on Earth is under threat. A global review of studies into insect populations shows they're declining 8 times faster than mammals, birds, and reptiles. At that rate, the world's insects could disappear completely within 100 years.
The base of the ecosystem is built upon insects. And if the insects disappear, then the whole ecosystems will collapse.
If the insects disappear, we're going to disappear too. The whole agricultural system depends, among other things, on the insects that are most vulnerable to extinction to control the other insects which compete with us for our crops. So this is a brilliant paper, but at the same time, one that scares the pants off of any biologist who understands how the world works.
It's not just the place of insects in the food chain that has scientists worried. They pollinate plants, purify the soil and waterways, recycle waste, and have an important role in pest control. And their numbers are declining by 2.5% every year.
Well, it looks like the food chain for the animals and the beasts of the earth are dwindling.
It's incredible because you look at the Bible and the prophecies, the plagues and pestilence and all that stuff, you start kind of breaking it down and looking at it, and you're like, wow. You can almost kind of see the biblical prophecies, how it's kind of lining up in a physical way, how that could happen.
Yeah.
When you start paying attention to the details. Yeah, you were talking about, how people, we were kind of talking about how when people don't come to a knowledge of the truth, they kind of like always learn but never come to a knowledge of the truth. And I thought of that scripture. It says, without knowledge, my people perish.
Mm-hmm.
Or without vision.
Well, it's a lack of knowledge.
Right.
My people are destroyed.
Yeah, for a lack of knowledge. And I'm thinking, wow, it's incredible because if you have a lack of knowledge on stuff and the stuff you do is affecting everything, I have no doubt pollution and stuff is going to affect anybody that has a brain, knows that whatever you do is going to have consequences. So if you do something that's going to pollute your environment, stuff's going to die. So if you keep doing it and with increasing measure, eventually it's going to affect insects and different things, and it's going to cause stuff to die off.
Yep.
So, if you have knowledge from God, insight into just the reality of the situation, you can know, wow, I probably shouldn't do this because this is going to happen. But if you don't know God, then you just increasingly go into darkness, and even the things that should be so obvious to you are no longer obvious to you anymore.
Amen. Because these things are building. We can see how what God has told us one day is going to happen. We're beginning to see the beginning stages of it from every angle. Mm-hmm. With that being stated, let's go here. Some of the signs that let us know that we're living in the last days. Let's couple this now with Israel's 70th year with the opening of the show. If you missed it, go back and listen to it. We're also told that there will be nation to rise against nation, but kingdom against kingdom.
Yeah.
Okay? Look at what's going on around the world. Venezuela, they're rioting against their leaders.
Yeah.
Haiti now is rising up. We have missionaries from our denomination that I go to in that dead church across the street.
Right.
That are stranded in Haiti right now because they cannot leave because they will be killed if they get out into this mess. So they're held up in the embassy right now trying to get home, but they can't. It's happening in France with the yellow vest. We're seeing kingdom rising against kingdom everywhere.
And ethnicity against ethnicity.
Ethnicity against ethnicity. Nation rising
Africa
against
is like that, yeah.
Yes.
In our country, look what's going on.
Yes, and what's about to bust loose in our country if they come after. But here's the latest in France this week and Haiti.
Thousands of yellow vest demonstrators marched in Paris on Saturday for the 13th weekend. Reuters reports the demonstrators began protesting in mid-November over fuel taxes. The actions have since broadened to encompass general perceived mistreatment of the working class. The thousands of protesters on Saturday remained peaceful for the most part. There were some who threw objects at security forces. A scooter and a police van were set on fire, and some shop windows were smashed. The Interior Ministry said the number of protesters around France was at 12,000, including 4,000 in Paris.
Anger is rising on the streets of Port-au-Prince. Protesters say the government is corrupt. They accuse President Jovenel Moïse of mismanaging the economy and are calling for an end to his rule.
Down with Jovenel. We are going to burn the country down if he does not step down.
We need a new government, a government that cares about the youth. We are tired of the current system.
These demonstrators say they aren't going anywhere until they force the president to step down. They're taking on the police and turning the streets into a battlefield. Destruction sending a clear message of discontent. Jovenel Moïse came to power in 2017. He promised to end corruption and improve the economy. The previous government is accused of embezzling millions in aid that was given by Venezuela. But with no politicians facing prosecution and little improvement in living standards, critics say nothing has changed.
The government makes the budget just for them. This is not how you provide change. The government took the money and spent it on themselves, on people who don't deserve it.
So as we can see, kingdoms rising against kingdom and nation against nation.
Reign of terror number 2, huh?
Yeah. People are waking up, just like Enoch said. You've got the rams and you got the sheeps.
That's right.
Or the sheep, I
guess. They're trying to
sheep's
jerk the horns off the ram but they're not having it.
There you
all
go.
around the world.
There you go, friends. It's right here in front of us if you just kind of step back and look. Yep. Oh, real quick, getting back to New York. I failed to mention this. Did you hear about that boy that killed his girlfriend who was pregnant in New York?
Oh, yes, yeah.
Friends,
they're not charging him because of the law that was passed.
They're not charging him. She was pregnant and had the baby in the womb.
Right.
And he killed her and the baby, but he's not being charged for the murder of the baby. Check this out.
New York's new abortion law saves an accused murderer from an abortion charge in the deadly stabbing of his pregnant girlfriend. According to the New York Post, Anthony Hobson's second-degree abortion charge is now dropped after Governor Andrew Cuomo removed abortion from the state's criminal code and instead classifies it as a public health law. Hobson is charged with murder, accused of killing his girlfriend and their unborn child in their New York apartment. Cuomo's office isn't commenting on the murder case.
So just blatantly in our face.
That's another example of the government coming in and taking what the Bible says is murder and rewriting it to not be murder anymore.
Lawlessness, man.
Exactly.
Lawlessness. It's abound.
Yeah.
And we're here. Okay, moving on to the latest with the FISA documents, McCabe, and Mr. Bill Barr, now our new Attorney General. What's he going to do? Now, he's a deep stater. That's what I don't understand. I'm having a hard time saddling up on him being the Attorney General. I thought Whitaker was going to be, because Whitaker was one of those pipe-wheeling, hard-hitting.
Oh, yeah. You can see him sitting there, and they're just attacking him, and he's like...
Whatever.
Yeah, he's not really... probably trying not to laugh, because it's almost like a big dog sitting there, and these little dogs barking as loud as they can at him. They're just kind of sitting there like...
yeah. One snap of the jaw.
Go ahead and show your teeth. Let's see.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Humor me a little bit. Show your teeth.
He's sitting there. I'll be your Huckleberry.
Yeah. Go ahead. You got to have a little more than that. Come on. Give me what you got.
Yeah. Well, McCabe has written a book, and he's getting out in front of what's coming to kind of set the narrative. Now, explain something to me, Chuck. Here we have a man who is, I'll say, allegedly committed all of these crimes, okay? Yeah. Being accused of all of these acts of treason and everything else. Having the right to speak out at any interview he so chooses, writing a book, doing a little book tour, pushing his book on his version of what happened so he could probably sprinkle sugar on everything and say it's not like Trump is playing it out at all. This is why we did what we did.
Right.
So he's allowed to go out and defend himself. Explain to me why somebody like Roger Stone, who gets arrested by a full-on entourage of FBI with...
CNN overlooking it.
Yeah. And them wanting to place a gag order on him where he cannot defend himself in public.
Because they know he's very well spoken and he has the truth.
Well,
so it's really, I don't see what you're saying, but it's interesting because you look at it from a spiritual perspective. The devil doesn't want anybody to know what's true.
Right.
So somebody's out there spewing lies. They're going to have the whole demonic media behind them, giving them the microphone because they're speaking their language lies. So anytime somebody comes out and speaks the truth, they're going to hit them full force. Oh, no, we're not letting that get out.
Good point, Chuck. I'm glad that you brought that up because I wasn't even looking at that angle. Yeah. No joke. And you're right. That is a good way to be able to discern who's telling the truth and who is not as to how they allow them to.
Well, what does the Bible say? If you love the world loves you. If you hate the world, then the world will hate you. So now we know we're not supposed to hate it, but we know what that interpretation is. What it's trying to say is, if you love the ways of this world, which is lying, deception, the world will love you and welcome you as one of its own. That's what you see the media doing. When you lie, they welcome you as one of them because they're liars. Where the truth speakers are the ones that are rejected because they hate the truth speakers because they hate the truth. So,
fist bump on that one. I mean, subconsciously,
deeper.
Right.
That's what it's really all about, because they want to make it all a political argument, and they want to call it all kinds of other stuff. So you don't see what it actually really is a spiritual thing, and nobody wants to call it a spiritual thing,
right?
Because oh no, this is a political thing. This is a new thing. We don't talk about spiritual stuff anymore. That's stupid, old-fashioned stuff. That's not what it is. It's a physical problem. Like we were taking it out of the spiritual realm into the physical. We fleshed out. Now the truth belongs to us, and we use it for what we want to do.
Yeah, and we spoke about that very thing, how the devil is trying to, because we remember when we talked about...
He wants to hijack the truth.
Right, but we talked about how our battle is spiritual. It's not carnal.
Not carnal, right.
And God says that our power is in the spiritual when we take it to Him.
Yeah.
And if we're physical, we're not warriors because we have no weapons of war when we go physical. And we talked about that a few weeks ago, and you're right. They're bringing it from the spiritual to the physical when they do things like that.
Yeah. They're like subtracting
point,
it from the truth, saying it's physical. This is what it's all about. That's why to them it's controlling the narrative. It's not about speaking the truth. So when you speak the truth to somebody and they battle it out with you, they really are not wanting the truth. Like, you want the truth, so you're assuming, well, they must want the truth too. That's why we're having this discussion. But they're all the while saying, no, I just want to appear like I'm the person who wants the truth. I just want to control what people think the truth is. Because that's what the devil wants. He doesn't want to speak the truth to people. He just wants to control what people think the truth is. You know, it's almost like because he wants to be God, he wants to be the one who controls. And the best way to control is to have everybody thinking you're true and you're speaking the truth. Well, that's kind of interesting, you know.
Well, let's keep that in the front of our minds right now, because we know what the truth. Those who are awake knows what the truth is on this coup against the president.
Right.
We know the FBI had insurance policies. They were doing everything they could do to unseat a duly elected president.
Right.
So keeping exactly what you said on the forefront here, how the devil wants to control the narrative.
Yeah.
Listen to what McCabe said in an interview this week.
I was speaking to the man who had just run for the presidency and won the election for the presidency, and who might have done so with the aid of the government of Russia,
Now, before we go any further, let's just go ahead and back this up. He knew that this dossier was fake.
Right.
The dossier that started this whole thing was bogus, paid for, lied about, and listen how he portrays it.
Right.
I was speaking to the man who had just run for the presidency and won the election for the presidency, and who might have done so with the aid of the government of Russia, our most formidable adversary on the world stage. And that was something that troubled me greatly.
How long was it after that you decided to start the obstruction of justice and counterintelligence investigations involving the president?
I think the next day I met with the team investigating the Russia cases, and I asked the team to go back and conduct an assessment to determine where are we with these efforts and what steps do we need to take going forward. I was very concerned that I was able to put the Russia case on absolutely solid ground in an indelible fashion, that were I removed quickly or...
Okay, we got to hear that again. Knowing that this was a bogus claim, this dossier, listen to what he said.
Need to take going forward. I was very concerned that I was able to put the Russia case on absolutely solid ground in an indelible fashion.
Let's hear that one more time. Knowing that it was fake.
What steps do we need to take going forward? I was very concerned that I was able to put the Russia case on absolutely solid ground in an indelible fashion, that were I removed quickly or reassigned or fired, that the case could not be closed or vanish in the night without a trace. I wanted to make sure that our case was on solid ground, and if somebody came in behind me and closed it and tried to walk away from it, they would not be able to do that without creating a record of why they'd made that decision.
You wanted a documentary record.
That's right.
That those investigations had begun because you feared that they would be made to go away.
That's exactly right.
2 years later?
Yeah.
3 years later?
Okay, and that brings me to this, okay? Michael Horowitz, our Inspector General of the Justice Department now, for 25 months, like you said, for about 2 years, he has had all of this information.
Yeah.
Okay? For 25 months ago, he even instructed the Justice Department to have this investigated by its Inspector General. He's had it for, 2 years now?
Well, it comes to my mind they're either incredibly incompetent or it's completely obvious that they're lying. They don't have it. Like, I mean, if they're as good as they say they are, to not have any shred of credible evidence to their sensational claim makes it kind of wearing me out to hear it every day. And it's almost like somebody like leading the horse to water, but there's no water. You just get tired of hearing it because you're like, you have no facts. Like, even when you look at the what they're saying is going on, you're like, dude, you have no reason to believe that. Like, everything I've seen, and they go, oh, the bombshell. Remember Joy Behar? Oh, the bombshell, we have, and she got excited, and then, oh, well, that was nothing. You know, the nothing burger.
Yeah, the nothing burger.
All this stuff, it's like, wow, it's like, for anybody even listening to CNN or the different people, these different outlets are doing this, you would think they would be getting wore out by now. Like, this is so ridiculous that you would even say this because you've not found anything. It's like, this makes you look horrible.
Well, this is my whole point. I mean, Q's telling everybody trust the plan. Okay, right. Trust the plan. It's all blah blah blah. Okay, all right. But I mean, at what point? Because nothing has been nothing. Right. Nothing has been done about the illegal corruption that took place in our midterm elections.
Yeah.
Nothing has been done. Nothing has been done with what is taking place in our Congress. The Department of Justice is doing nothing when it comes to taking care of all of this illegal activity that's going on. And what troubles me is, if you're not going to do anything about these illegal elections, what's going to happen in 2020?
Right.
I mean, look at what they were able to accomplish with these crazies that were elected into the House.
Yeah.
And explain to me how, when we have a system set up to where if the House proposes a bill, it has to go to the Senate to be voted upon.
Right.
If the Senate votes on it, then it goes to President Trump's desk, and he signs it. Then it becomes law. We learned about that in the School of Rock back when we were kids watching cartoons.
Yeah.
Okay? How a bill becomes law, right? Well, then, right now, how can the House just come up with something like the Green Deal and not even voted on yet by the Senate, but yet Ocasio-Cortez can close down Amazon in New York under this Green Deal mandate? Yeah. Explain to me how that is happening, and our Department of Justice is doing nothing. Trump is doing nothing. And I'm not griping about Trump, but I'm agreeing here with what Bill O'Reilly said. We need to make it public. Yeah. We need to show the American people what is really going on here in this dossier, the FISA documents. Release it, man. It's time to do it.
Yeah.
And everybody will say, well, you know, we're going to have to wait. Wait for what? You know, this is what's leading me to this point here with what we opened the show with the wall issue, okay? We are being distracted. Something is happening, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if we're about to go to war, if we're about to be overrun. I don't know if this peace deal is going to be the 7-year treaty that is going to start the tribulations, and that is what we are being diverted from.
Yeah.
But all of this has got to be a diversion.
Yeah.
And if Trump does not do something now, he is not, I don't think he's going to win legally. I don't think he's going to win the election because of all this corruption that is still in place.
Right.
Now, I could be wrong. I mean, you know, something could hit, and in the coming days they release all these documents, but I don't see. Okay, look at what Tom Fenton with Judicial Watch. You know, he's been suing left and right to get all of these documents that are supposed to be public, where we can see them, and they're not even showing them. And he has been suing and suing and suing. And listen to what he says.
Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton here with breaking news. We have new FBI documents showing a cover-up of the true extent of Hillary Clinton's potential crimes in the email scandal. 3 days after James Comey corruptly let Hillary Clinton off the hook for her email misconduct, the FBI was compiling a chart of the statutory violations considered during the investigation of Clinton and the reasons for the recommendations not to prosecute. Instead of releasing this chart and other information, it turns out the FBI took steps to make sure the chart was kept in the pocket of the agent compiling it. Well, this is an outrageous cover-up, not only of the true extent of Hillary Clinton's potential misconduct, but the corrupt reasons not to prosecute her under the law. Judicial Watch will continue to get more information about this ongoing scandal. And once again, it's Judicial Watch on the front lines doing the heavy lifting for truth, accountability, and the rule of law.
This is Judicial Watch. This is public information that has been withheld from us that legally is supposed to be shown to us.
Right.
He had to sue and sue to get what he has got, and what he has got is simple public information, and nothing is being done about it.
Here's my thought, too. You know, people will come and say, oh, well, this is so old news. Why are they bringing this back up about Hillary? Here's the thing. If you really want our country to operate the way it's supposed to, like you said, you know, you have to be concerned about truth. If you're not concerned about truth, then really you don't want the country to run the way it's supposed to. Or if you're only concerned about truth when it helps your side be able to control the narrative, you have to examine your heart. Be like, wow, you know, am I really wanting to align myself with the truth? Because the reason we go after this is not because we're Republican and we're going after the Democrat. Like, if you really are God's, you go after the truth no matter who it hurts. Because really, ultimately, it helps everybody when the truth is revealed. Even though it's hard for the person who's broken the truth and lied, because it never feels good when you do something wrong. It's very shameful when you have to admit it. But the fact that you're willing to admit it lets you know that you're willing to submit to the truth, which is God, and then you, even though you have that shame, the Lord's able to build you back up as a solid foundation. So if you're concerned about the truth and the country being strong, you are very, very concerned about the truth. There's nothing more important to you than the truth, because the truth is what sets you free. The truth is why God's kingdom will never fade, because it's solid, built on the truth. So you realize the power of the truth to establish your country the way it's supposed to be. Like, I think that's why it was so strong in the founding of our country, because there were so many people that if they were not Christians, they had such a profound respect for the Bible as being true, was very important to them for the truth to happen. So, like, if people say that they're so concerned about our country being strong, then they should be very concerned about the truth and going after what's happened with Hillary. Or even, I mean, if Trump did do something, you know, then let there be some facts that lead you further to want to investigate him further. But if there's no facts materializing, you're chasing after the wrong thing, like you're chasing after the wind.
Well, and a
Yeah,
lot
I'm
of people,
saying it's like,
well, yeah, and a lot of people are saying that Trump is just the old adage: never interrupt an enemy when he's destroying himself.
right.
And Trump, left and right, you can't deny this. He's letting them hang themselves every
Oh,
time
yeah.
you turn around.
Yep.
And that's fine. But the culmination of all of this, especially the timing of this peace deal, the timing of Israel, what Jude told us about contending for the true faith in Jesus Christ and referring back to Enoch.
Yeah.
About what he says upon the Lord's return. We go to Enoch and we find there's going to be 35 kings and then 23. We are at the 23rd now. We are at the 58th king, shepherd over Israel.
Yeah.
We're seeing the ravens and all the vultures trying to rip the horns off of the ram.
Yeah.
In regards to Israel and physically the Christians.
Yeah.
Okay. We see the sheep are asleep.
Mm-hmm.
All right. In my opinion, I think there's meat on the bone when it comes to this peace treaty.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's going to be something to come from this that is going to start the tribulations.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the beast is rising. I do believe the theory that this green deal could be, or at least the beginning stages of a pale green horse.
Yeah.
And I think what is happening is each group has their own thing that they follow. Because if you will notice this, the liberals, they're giving their little goodies, their little treats. The Russian collusion, we're going to unseat Trump. The Democrats are going to rule even though Trump's president. They're getting their goodies. That group, the liberals.
Yeah.
The Patriots, they're getting their little treats, their goodies. They're getting the Q. They're getting the, all the corrupt are going to be going down. Everybody who is in a group is being pacified with something that's keeping them quiet. Okay? Everybody is being pacified, but yet biblically we see everything in motion running full steam ahead to the last days.
Right.
So, in my opinion, I'm thinking that this is what this is all about.
Yeah.
That not that Trump is trying to take advantage of us, or he has turned coat, or that he has always been a globalist and he's just part of the plan.
Right.
I think the powers that be know what's coming.
Yeah.
And so they're trying to keep everybody pacified to the last minute.
Mm-hmm.
And then God's word is going to be 100% pure and true. And all-out chaos is going to ensue.
Yeah, well, because the Bible says what's going to happen. So we know that it's going to happen. That's a good point, because what we're talking about, how the truth has been hijacked from, not completely, but enough to deceive everybody.
Mm-hmm.
The truth can never be completely hijacked, because then God would be not still in control. Like, he's still in control of what's going on. But the people have allowed the truth to be hijacked from them. So now they just follow after a delusion. You said, it almost kind of makes me think of Judas, or not Judas, was it Judas Iscariot, where he wanted I'm thinking of two different things. Judas was the one who betrayed Jesus, but who was it? The one that was very zealous for his country, and he was wanting to kill the Roman soldiers.
Oh, Peter.
Okay. No, the zealot. Who's the zealot? Simon.
Oh, Simon.
Simon, I'm thinking of.
Well, because Peter's the one that cut Malchus's ear.
Yeah, but they really wanted a physical leader. It was so important to them. But Jesus said, "I am the king." Basically, he's the ruler. But it was in a spiritual realm. That's why he said, don't, Peter, put your sword away. You don't need to cut his ear. Like, he wanted to take action, and cut, stop what he saw was what was going on. But Jesus said, whoa. You need to see with spiritual eyes what's happening here.
Yeah.
I'm allowing this to happen because I need to get right.
Right.
And so, like, our world is so caught up on what solve all the problems politically, because if we can have peace here on earth, peace and security, that's like what happiness is all about. But really, the peace and security only comes when the truth, the spiritual kingdom, comes to this earth in people's hearts, because like the physical is just the part, the temporary, like what happens when what's set in place is set solidly spiritually, then physically you will have that peace and security.
Mm-hmm.
But until they seek God, the spiritual side to you is still dying, and everything will still die, because it starts with spirit and it ends with your physical. They're starting with the physical, trying to end and be the all in all. But the spiritual side, when the spiritual side set forth, when the truth is established, then everything else falls into place.
Mm-hmm.
So they're missing that link. They're missing the spiritual side, trying to establish the peace and security on the earth politically, and it's never going to happen.
No.
That's why they're missing the mark by 10,000 miles.
Yeah.
They're not even anywhere near the park.
Well, and last week, have you heard about the Day of Mourning, February the 23rd, the activist mommy? They're going to have a day of mourning. She's going to New York, right where they signed that abortion bill, and taking a group of people down into the basement. And she's calling on everybody around the United States to cry out to God in a Nineveh-style sackcloth and ashes repentance for the sins of this nation.
Yeah.
And it's really gaining steam. We're going to do it next week. So that's what next week's going to be about. We are going to pray and repent for this nation.
Yeah.
Who knows? If enough people cry out to God over this, maybe God will intervene and round up the corrupt.
Yeah.
But if we don't, then it's full steam ahead.
Well, here's the thing, too. I mean, God wants us to speak the truth, to have the mentality of, the Bible says this is going to happen, so why am I doing anything about it? Because it's going to go according to the Lord's will. But here's the thing, is you always have, the Lord talks about, this is what I want, like my revealed will and then the permissible will. So it's like what you do still has consequences. So it's interesting how the devil tries to like kind of pacify you, like, well, don't do anything about it because God's will is going to happen anyway. Or, you know what, you need to go do this. You need to be the one to establish it. Like you have like the two extremes, like like Peter, cut the ear off, or just sit back and do nothing. But really, you should be kind of somewhere right in the middle where you're doing what you should be doing, and the Lord will work through that, because the darkness will come, evil will come, but why not be the one to stand up against it?
Well, exactly.
Instead of just sit back and let it happen.
Fight. Yeah, fight.
Right.
Let me ask you a question. The Bible says a house divided cannot stand.
Yeah.
This nation is so divided, it's not even funny. And when the Bible talks about the great deception, we are so divided. I don't see one. Okay, let's just say the great deception is aliens.
Right.
That's a show for another day.
Mm-hmm.
As we get further into this spiritual battle, we're going to be talking about the fallen angels, and I've touched on it a time or two. But let's just say an alien invasion is going to be the great deception.
Mm-hmm.
We are so divided.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to deceive everybody, because you're going to have the liberals welcome them with open arms.
Right.
Because they're going to be told they're here to save us. Then when you're going to have the patriots going to fight against it, because it's like, they ain't coming into my country. You know what I'm saying?
Onto our planet.
Yeah, they ain't coming into our planet. So even something that major, it would not deceive the masses. You would only deceive a portion of it. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
That's why I'm thinking that we're seeing the great deception, because there is a deception for every different group. You follow what I'm saying? And I don't see just one major deception deceiving everybody.
Yeah.
And I think this is what we're witnessing. I think we're witnessing a great deception. The liberals have their, Trump's going to be removed. Right. And then we have all the corrupt are going to be round up,
Right.
Well, I think that is what the deception is looking like to me anyway.
Yeah.
It's catering to every group, whatever that deception is. You follow what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Well, I think so, because we were talking about the spiritual thing. People, because they're not seeking God. I mean, there are a lot of people who are, but the majority, I think, aren't. And when you don't seek God, you're not going to see what the problem is. So you're like you said, each person has what their idea of fixing the problem is, but because they don't have God, it's not an accurate, what's actually happening. So I think you could definitely come to that conclusion of what you just said.
Yeah,
because if you think about, look at how many people are involved now with the political process. How many people are watching what's going on, in just like almost like a football team rooting for their side to win. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of interesting to watch how engaged people are. You go to the rallies, look at how many people are showing up for Trump. I know that's not really happening on the other side. They don't get very many people, but the whole idea of, even if they don't show up, the whole liberal media and Hollywood, they're rooting for their side, and then our side is, Trump. But it's interesting how you have both sides, just kind of contending and thinking that this is going to fix the problem. So,
right.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's getting crazy.
It's interesting.
It is. Let's take a quick look. Disease and pestilence are coming. Okay. The wild weather. What about all the landslides and the floodings happening in California right now this week?
Yeah.
The massive snowstorms, the storms that we've had, the rain. Man, we're expecting 7 more inches of rain here in Tennessee this week.
I saw the weather.
Yeah. And it's just like, my goodness.
The forecast was saying, I know, well, I especially know because I drive a concrete truck, and I've been out of work for probably a week and a half for the last 2 or 3 weeks, and I'm looking at the weather going, God, I hope they're wrong.
Yeah.
But, I know God's in control, and he'll work it out. But, I mean, just in the natural, I'm going,
well,
man, where's all this rain coming from?
He is. But the crazy weather we've been having, the temperatures that we have been having. So weather we know, and look what it's doing for the first time ever in Hawaii, down in the lower level. We know it snows sometimes in the mountains, but check this out.
George. Geek.com reports that a winter storm has hit the Hawaii Islands, with officials warning residents of gusty winds, rain, high surf, and even snow. Hawaii's Department of Land and Natural Resources Division of State Parks is reporting that for perhaps the first time ever, snow has fallen in a Hawaii state park. Video captured by Kimberly Espana and posted by Maui Watch on Instagram shows roads at the Poli Poli State Park blanketed in white. Footage of snow falling in Haleakala National Park and people enjoying the rare occurrence in Maui have also been posted to social media. The DLNR said the forecasters were spot on with their predictions, calling the storms an unprecedented.
Reuters reports a senior revolution.
Geek.com reports that a winter storm.
Unprecedented. Snowing in Maui,
For the
Ohio.
first time.
For the first time,
wow.
yeah. Now, disease. I'm telling you, friends, they're setting the narrative. We talked about the Ebola outbreak.
Yeah.
They're setting the narrative. Check this out.
According to CNN, the Ebola outbreak has taken the lives of nearly 100 children in the Democratic Republic of Congo since the outbreak first began last year. According to the charity Save the Children, the number of new cases of Ebola have doubled in the last month. A total of 97 children have died from the illness since the outbreak began in August. 65 of the victims of the disease were younger than 5 years old, and the current outbreak in the Congo is the second deadliest and second largest Ebola outbreak in recorded history, topped only by one outbreak in West Africa in 2014.
So the Ebola is back on the table. See, they're gradually putting that out there, setting the narrative. Could we have a? I think we're due for a false flag, especially with this national emergency here.
Yeah.
And Nancy Pelosi saying, well, you better be careful because a Democrat president could call a national emergency and take away your guns. Well, no, because to take away an amendment to the Constitution is a whole different process than calling a national emergency.
Was she so concerned about following the rules?
I know,
man. Oh, wow. Until it doesn't benefit them, then they throw the rules right out the window.
Wow.
Gotta love it, right?
And now we have more measles outbreaks. This time it's in the Philippines. Here we go.
1,300 Filipinos, mostly children, have been infected with measles from January 1st to February 9th this year. Health authorities said February 11th the cases included 70 confirmed deaths. Last week, the health department announced a measles outbreak in Metro Manila and parts of Luzon and Central and Eastern Visayas. Most of the cases were recorded in the National Capital Region, followed by Calabarzon. According to Inquirer, the health department said 79% of the fatalities did not have immunization against measles. Health authorities authorities have earlier warned a possible measles outbreak due to the low turnout rate in previous immunization campaigns. Parents have been reluctant to have their children vaccinated amid the Dengvac mess. President Rodrigo Duterte will reportedly take part in an upcoming information drive aimed at gaining back the Filipino parents' confidence in the government's immunization.
So, measles breaking out in Washington State, now breaking out in the Philippines.
Wow.
So, there you have it, friends. Disease and pestilence, storms, wars, rumors of wars. Peace deal coming up on the table, friends. We got things that are really, really getting crazy.
If anybody heard me laughing, I wasn't laughing about what we were just talking about right now. There was a kind of a crazy meme on our social media, on Greg's social media here, and it was kind of funny about CNN. So,
yeah,
kind of troubling and funny at the same time.
Yeah, it was. So,
anyways,
all right, friends, that's the latest, man, and that's the opinion from the front porch. Take it for what it's worth. Go to God in prayer over all of this. Seek the truth for yourself.
That's right.
And find discernment. We are just here as a watchman on the wall. As we see things play out, we warn you as to what is to come. So,
we're very concerned about the truth, not just controlling the narrative.
Amen. So, Chuck, why don't you pray us out, old bud? And remember the February 23rd. And pray for Ron's daughter. She's going to the Congo.
Oh, wow.
On a mission trip, yeah.
Yeah,
so
that's important.
Pray us out. And when we come back, the message will be yours.
All right. Dear Lord, I just thank you so much for today. I thank you for just blessing the day that I could spend time with my children, even though I'm not working right now. But in the last couple of days, I thank you that you're in control. Thank you that you know what we need, Lord, and you always provide the increase like you did today through this means of what came in. Lord, I just want to thank you, Lord, that we just desire to speak the truth. As Brother Greg was saying, we just want to be watchmen on the wall and to share with our listeners the truth that you're revealing to us, and to also just kind of discuss what's going on and kind of view it through the lens of your word. Lord, I'm thankful that you don't leave us here on this earth to kind of wander and try to figure stuff out, though you want us to look and search stuff out. You're faithful to always show us the truth, Lord. Thank you that you're so faithful to do that, Lord. Thank you that you're concerned with us and you're concerned about the truth and with people knowing the truth. Lord, I pray for Brother Ron, Lord, and for his daughter. I pray your hedge of protection around her, Lord, that you would just anoint her, fill her mouth with your words to speak. Give her boldness like a lion, Lord, that she would just go out and have no fear because she's going with your heart and your attitude and just with your word to speak truth into this dark area of the world. Lord, I just thank you for the opportunity, Lord, to speak the truth. Thank you that it's not about me and being worthy, because I wouldn't even be here if that was the case, Lord. I just thankful that you would use even broken vessels like Greg and I. Lord, I just I'm so honored, Lord, that you would speak your truth through us, Lord. We just want to walk in all truth. Help us, Lord, if there's anything we believe or any type of views we have that don't line up with your word, that you would strip it from us completely. Lord, that we would continue to have the right focus, Lord. Help us to be humble enough to acknowledge our faults and to come close to you, Lord, to love your truth more than anything else. Lord, I just pray you'd bless the rest of this evening and let our thoughts be on you, Lord, in the name of Yeshua. Amen.
Amen. Good prayer, old bud. Well, Chuck, any closing words?
I just am very thankful, like I was saying, that God has not left us to wander in darkness, because, man, this world is so dark with what's going on, the deception. I'm just very thankful that it really makes stuff more, keeps you grounded when you know the truth, even though it's kind of very perplexing sometimes to look at how crazy things are, because when you see the truth, you get to see just how bad things are the closer you get to the truth. But I'm grateful that God helps us keep it in perspective, that he's still in control. He hasn't lost control. He hasn't fallen off his throne. He's still in control, and it just is very, very comforting and encouraging to me to keep going forward and just to be excited that one day he will come and bring his kingdom on this earth. And it's so perfect. And when I see all this imperfection, it gets me more excited about his perfection when it comes. So,
amen. Well, real quick, we got some breaking news, friends, right here at the last minute. I didn't talk about this because I didn't want to bring light to it, but now that this article has surfaced, y'all remember this Jussie Smollett? Is that how you say his name? He's the actor on The Empire, the one that got attacked by two
MAGA, two Trump supporters.
Two Trump supporters wearing a MAGA hat.
Yeah.
It was staged, obviously.
Wow.
But
why am I not surprised?
Yeah. It was more tactics from the left to try to discredit. But this is just broken on our local news here, and it comes from CNN. CNN had to report this. Headlines, police source, new evidence suggests that Jussie Smollett orchestrated the attack.
Wow.
Ooh, and CNN has to report this. Two law enforcement sources with knowledge of the investigation told CNN that Chicago police believe that Jussie Smollett paid two men to orchestrate the assault. The brothers, who were arrested Wednesday, were released without charges Friday after Chicago police cited the discovery of new evidence. The sources told CNN that the two men are now cooperating fully with law enforcement. Smollett told authorities that he was attacked early January 29th by two men who were yelling out racial and homophobic slurs. He said one attacker put a rope around his neck and poured an unknown chemical substance on him. The sources told CNN that there are records that show the two brothers purchased the rope and found around Smollett's neck at an Ace Hardware store in Chicago. Okay, so he was on with Robin Roberts, and he was all, crying, and I got attacked, and he had a little scar on his eye. Well, now it's coming out that it was a set-up attack, and these two attackers were paid to do it.
Wow.
So there you have it.
Interesting.
Oh, good point. Yeah, we didn't mention the shooting in Illinois when that guy went in there and shot up all them people in Joliet.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a false flag, obviously. Keep that in mind, too. So this Jumalet, whatever his name is, Smollett, and CNN has to report that it was fake because they were jumping all over this when it happened. Oh, see, Trump supporters are evil,
right?
And now they're having to eat their words. So that's cool, man.
Because it's always the Trump supporters are attacking everybody else. But when you watch the news clips of people chasing Trump supporters and attacking them, remember that
and beating them with bike locks and everything else. Yeah,
that's they have to pay these other people to see like they're the ones attacking because Trump supporters, about 99.59% of the time, are not doing that.
Yeah.
So
I told Miranda last night when that news article came up on the news, I was like, yeah, he's got one little scar on his eye of this alleged attack, and Antifa are beating Trump supporters with bike locks. I'm beating women.
Yeah. Throwing feces and urine at them, and pepper spraying people, and
All right, my friends. Lord willing, and the creeks don't rise, we will catch you next weekend. Until next time, I'm Old Smokehouse.
I'm Chuck Bird.
And we'll catch you later. Bye-bye.
God bless you.
Smokehouse. To talk to Smokehouse, dial 641-552-9354. That number once again, 641-552-9354. And enter access code 252380, followed by the pound sign. Call in and join the show.
SmokehouseStudios.net. God is among us. The door to the ark is slamming shut.